Hey, and welcome to the Cold Email Success Summit. I'm your host, Liam Austin, the co-founder of Entrepreneurs HQ, and we've got Alex Berman, who is the CEO of Experiment27. He's responsible for generating over $35 million worth of leads for his clients, and he's going to be sharing some of those B2B prospecting emails and the sequences that he's used to actually get results for some of those businesses as well as himself today with us. Alex, welcome.
Thanks, Liam. Great to be here.
So for people who may not know you too well, do you want to just explain a little bit about your business and how cold email fits into that?
Sure. So our agency is 100% focused on cold emailing and generating leads for agencies. So anyone who's running a service business, our typical client has over $1 million in revenue, and we find them clients within the Fortune 500 and also within other industries like that. Our main focus is cold email, but then we also do other stuff. I also run a YouTube channel that talks about cold email tutorials. And like you said, today I would love to talk about how we personalize in bulk. We're sending hundreds and hundreds of emails every day. And then also some of the differences between what you might have seen from other people when it comes to sending cold emails and what actually works when it comes to selling as an agency.
All right, that's great. And I know, the agency side of things is something that you touched on prior to this call. Do you want to just mention and tell everyone how important that is and why it's maybe different in terms of the approach?
Sure. So my background a little bit, I used to be CMO of a company called InspireBeats, which we're valued at over $100 million, and it only did cold email to SaaS. And then before that, I was director of marketing at a digital agency in New York City. So I have background in both. And what we found is a lot of our clients at InspireBeats, when they were agencies, it wasn't converting. And the reason why that is because when you're selling SaaS, basically you're selling one product off the shelf. And it's almost the same thing that you're passing to everybody. But when you're selling as an agency, you're selling a suite of services, right? It's basically you're selling whatever the client needs. And what a lot of people run into when they're sending their cold emails as agencies is they're trying to get as much of that information across as possible. So what that ends up looking like is bullet points. So, hey, we do Android, iOS, HTML5, and just listing stuff out when that doesn't work. So I'd love to show you what actually works instead.
All right, awesome. And it's great that you're going to be showing actual case studies that have actually gotten results as well. So I'm keen to dive in. I'm sure everyone else is. So where did you want to start with this?
Sure. So I can hop on a screen share if you want. So what I'd love to do is first start with the anatomy of a cold email. And the main thing I want to hit on is the personalization here. And then also, just for a little bit of background, these two emails that I'm about to show you have generated emails or have generated meetings with the Fortune 500, most of them on the first send. So here's anatomy of the cold email. Usually like to start with, hey, name, then a personalized first line. And it's easier if we go through this first before I talk about the emails themselves. Then, I'm this guy with a short intro of what we do, the results we've got, come up with a relevant idea, then the call to action here. So now that you know what that framework looks like, here's an actual email that's worked. So, hey, Missy, came across your name while looking for contacts at company. Definitely a fan of what you do. This is the secret to customizing at scale. What I found is a lot of people, when they start scaling up their cold emails, they either have a business development rep that's doing all of this list building manually, or they hire somebody from Upwork, right? Like somebody from the Philippines or from Mexico or somebody like that to find data points. And what I found when it comes to customizing at scale is you can come up with a sentence that works for everybody and then have it changed in an easy enough way that a Filipino or a Mexican or somebody that's outsourced can change it. The point I like to change is a lot of the times I'll say definitely a fan of what you do or definitely a fan of the work you did with X brand. And if you're selling to agencies, you can look at their agency site and see, like, let's say they worked with Coca-Cola. You can say definitely a fan of what you did for Coca-Cola. And that adds the personalization without you having to actually write each first line manually, which slows everything down.
I really love the idea of mentioning a brand or something that they've worked on in the past. I really feel like that's hitting home in terms of the personalization side of things, that you've done your homework as well, especially if you can scale that and grab that from, where would you be getting that information from?
Well, so it depends on who you're trying to sell to. At Experiment27, we're mostly trying to sell to other agencies, which means calling out a specific project that worked in the past is pretty easy. They have it listed there. If you're selling to other industries, it might be looking for an award on their site. It might be looking for testimonials from some of their past clients and calling out those names. It literally is a mind exercise of thinking about what is the industry I'm selling in, and then of those websites, what is something most of those websites are going to have on them that I can call out in this email. And then also writing a generic version. This is the generic version, right? Definitely a fan of what you do is what we'd write if we couldn't find a project to call out.
Okay, cool.
That's the way I kind of approach cold emails at scale. Is the more that you can break it down into specific industries, the more you can use templates without it seeming like you're spamming.
Okay, and just to maybe clarify here, because this is maybe at one extreme of trying to send out hundreds of emails versus the more personalized approach of maybe sending 5 to 10 individual manual emails at a time. At what time, just in terms of giving a perspective to the people who are viewing this, like at what stage should you be using this, concept or method that you're describing today?
So the way that I like to do it is when I first come up with a new project, we'll send out, let's say 20, 30 emails super manually, trying to come up with as much variation as we possibly can. Then what happens is you'll see like 5 or 6 winners from there. Those influence the actual scripts that we use when we send in bulk. From there, the typical process I like to use is 200 to 300 emails a week per target. And if your guys can do 200 to 300 emails a week customized, then you don't need to do this, right? If they're slow, some people are slower than other people. If they're a little slower, then you might need to use more templates. So it all depends. The other takeaway that we found is sometimes it's easier to start with an email like this, where it's a customized template, and then move to more custom emails. Because what that does is there's always going to be a percentage of the population that responds to emails like this if they're well written. So by sending all of these out first, you save that time you'd normally spend customizing the emails to everybody.
Okay. Yep. Okay. I'm with you there. I just wanted to make sure it clarifies it for everyone in terms of the different types and
yeah. So if you're first starting out with cold emails, send them manually for sure. But once everything's proven out, if you know your offer and you know the market you're selling to, it makes more sense to have your BDRs focus on other things and then outsource this part, or get this part systematized as much as possible to save them time.
Yeah, very cool. So I get to this stage once you see the manual, what's working, what people are responding to, and then you use the what's working in this template.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So that first line hits hard, and then I'm with Agency, a Los Angeles-based full-service digital agency. We've worked with this company creating a new web portal with custom e-commerce, enabling them to sell direct to customer for the first time and expanding the market worldwide. So again, back to finding emails for each niche. This was sending emails out to people in e-commerce. So we gave a specific e-commerce company and then a 1-sentence case study on e-commerce. This other email is sending to a completely different type of company. This one's to restaurants, like bigger chain restaurants like Qdoba or Chipotle and that sort of stuff. So let's say with Qdoba, we built an app that takes customers through a seamless process, allowing them to reserve rooms in-app, plan future trips, and find amenities. Actually, this was a hotel, not Qdoba. But you see how it's taking that company and then it's writing something that's specific to that. So let's say we're sending this to hotels. They'll see, with Hyatt, we built an app that takes customers, and they're like, oh, this agency worked with Hyatt. And not only that, they have an idea for us. This is something to start on. Let's chat. Versus what most people send in their cold emails, which is like, we've worked with these 15 companies or these 3 or 4 companies, and we'd love to work with you. Do you have any mobile projects? Right? The takeaway of this is, here's a case study we've done in your specific industry. Here's exactly what we did for them. We worked on mobile projects with many companies similar to yours. Would you be open to discussing your digital goals for 2017? Right? Something extremely specific that we're asking for. And that is relevant. For this one, it would be relevant to almost 90% of the hotels that we're sending it out to.
All right, great. And when we're mentioning, the company that you've done work with, is it good to mention like a direct competitor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people are turned off, especially when it comes to the Fortune 500. I was talking to the director of sales at an agency about 2 months ago, and he said they were big into publishing, selling to publishers. And he said they brought up, I'll just use a publisher an example. Let's say they brought up Scholastic in a meeting with Houghton Mifflin. And Houghton Mifflin saw that they worked with Scholastic, and that turned into kind of like a pushback point, and it made them not want to work with them. But they did end up closing the client anyway. So in my opinion, and what I've seen, is mentioning competitors in the emails is only a benefit. And if they are turned off by it, it's not going to be many that are turned off by it.
Okay, and when mentioning, say, this company, whether it's a competitor or not, ideally it sounds like a pet competitor, are we mentioning really specific results that we've gotten, or do we want to try to be a bit more general for maybe to get them to maybe ask that question or to get that next conversation?
So it depends what industry you're in, and it depends how careful you are / what permission you have, right? Like, let's say Hyatt gives this company permission to talk about their app, then I would talk about the app completely. The reason why we're not saying the app generated like an extra 15 million in revenue for Hyatt is because this company doesn't do marketing, right? They do mobile app work. So ideally, the company that they're selling into, Hyatt, would already have some kind of goal for 2017, let's say, increasing the revenue from digital platforms. Then this mobile agency could say, okay, increasing revenue from digital platforms, maybe building a web app that takes customers through this seamless process will help for you as well. So for marketing companies, definitely. And in our cold emails that we send for Experiment 27, we talk about the amount of leads we've generated. We talk about the money we've generated for clients. We give specific ideas, all of that sort of stuff. But not all clients, not all companies are in marketing. So whatever hits the hardest for you, right? And sometimes in dev, what hits the hardest is decreasing bugs or adding a QA process. Or in UI, it might be increasing time spent on apps. So yeah, whatever that point is, that's worth calling out.
Okay, great. And before we move on to that last, that call to action at the bottom, is there anything else we need to cover off in that kind of section?
So the other thing to notice about this is it's a short email. HubSpot talked about this 4 or 5 years ago in one of their blog posts, that a cold email should be able to be viewed on an iPhone without having to scroll. And that's the same thing we follow even at the enterprise level, especially at the enterprise level, actually. So a lot of these have gone out to CEOs. So they're super busy, or even their assistants are super busy and have to decide in a split second whether to forward it on. Keeping it short. And then, yeah, the other thing to note is I'm the business development director at a company, an established mobile development agency. So the actual pitch for the agency is here, and it's extremely short, right? They're just saying they're established, and then they're talking about the companies. And the reason why that is,